The EU has finally given the green light to a Brexit deal, but the matter is far from settled. Now it's up to the British and European parliaments to either approve or reject it.
So I will take this deal back to the House of Commons, confident we have achieved the best deal available, and full of optimism about the future of our country.
So what are some of the key areas of the deal? Citizens' rights. There are currently 3.8 million EU citizens living and working in the UK, and around 1 million UK citizens living abroad in the EU. This deal enables them to continue staying in their current places of residence. The border with Ireland. Although Theresa May once promised to take the UK out of the EU's single market and customs union, it is still not happening, and this is why. Things got tricky around the Irish border, which isn't a hard border with physical checks. A hard border needs to be imposed if the UK is to leave the EU. But introducing it could reignite the Irish conflict between unionists and nationalists that ended in 1999. Both the EU and the UK want to avoid physical checks or infrastructure between Northern Ireland and Ireland, but haven't reached a common ground on the issue. The withdrawal agreement allows the UK to remain in the EU's custom union and Northern Ireland in the single market until a replacement trade agreement can be negotiated, or even indefinitely if there's no consensus. Divorce bill. This divorce is going to be a costly one. The UK would need to pay out about $50 billion to cover its contributions to the EU budget until 2020 and other outstanding commitments such as pensions for EU officials. The kingdom has also had to deal with a political fallout, starting with David Cameron, who resigned from his position as Prime Minister right after the referendum. Two Brexit secretaries, David Davis and Dominic Raab, have also resigned during negotiations.
So today, we see a government led by people who didn't want the referendum, didn't call for the referendum. The people who were behind it have all fled the scene, nowhere to be found. And the country is really left grasping at straws.
So, what's next? It's now up to the British Parliament to scrutinise the deal and then vote on it. If approved, then the EU Parliament will vote on it too. Although Theresa May have a slim majority in Parliament, some members within her party aren't convinced, so the deal could be rejected. The EU's chief negotiator said, "This is, quote, the only and the best possible deal." So, if rejected, there is a possibility of a no-deal Brexit. This means any of the arrangements between the UK and the EU will effectively expire on March 29th. Millions would be affected as the fate of expats would be unclear, and the UK would have to revert to the World Trade Organization's rules on trade, which could impact the price of goods in British shops significantly. But there are a few other options. The idea of a second referendum has been making the rounds, and this time British citizens would be able to make a more informed decision. Snap elections are also an option. If May fails to get support for the current deal, she could table a parliamentary vote for a general election that would have to be passed by 2/3 of the parliament. So will the UK be able to overcome the Brexit challenge?